Sarah.
Good morning. On behalf of Mayor Bill Bell, the elected members of the Durham City Council, Kevin Dick, and the Director of the Office of Economic and Workforce Development, and the City of Durham Small Business Advisory Committee, it gives me great pleasure to welcome you all here this morning to this Business Innovation Through Exporting Symposium. I will also be remiss if I didn't acknowledge our collaborating sponsors, the Women's Business Center of North Carolina, and the North Carolina Institute for Minority and Economic Development. Also, I would like to extend the committee's heartfelt gratitude for our distinguished panel of panelists this morning for coming to educate us on the exporting and international trade industry. This seminar represents the commitment of the Small Business Advisory Committee to mobilizing its various stakeholders to address issues and concerns relative to Durham-based small businesses and entrepreneurial ventures. The committee aims to advance entrepreneurship through advocacy, education and training, technical assistance, research, as well as direct engagements in the areas of social entrepreneurship, high growth, high impact industries, and entrepreneurial job creation. I hope that you will find today's effort informative and engaging. Today's presentation will be telecast on Time Warner Channel 8 or DCTV 8. It will also be available on the city's website at the Office of Economic and Workforce Development, and it will probably be also offered in a YouTube format for the next year. It gives me great pleasure to introduce the director of the North Carolina Women's Business Center, Bryles Johnson.
My name is Bryles Johnson. I'm the director of the Women's Business Center of North Carolina. We are part of the North Carolina Institute of Minority Economic Development, and we welcome you here today. I want to especially thank the City of Durham and the Small Business Advisory Council, as well as our distinct panelists here from the Department of Commerce, U.S. Commercial Services, or U.S. Department of Commerce, rather, the North Carolina Department of Agriculture, the SBTDC, and Mr. Glickman, who has some excellent information about financing export-import. Thank you all for being here. Just quickly, the Women's Business Center, we serve women in business. If it's a startup or an existing business, we're here to help women to move forward in their businesses, and we provide free counseling and seminars, networking. We work with certifications all across the state. So thank you very much for being here. And I think next is Miss Mary Spade, SBTDC.
Good morning. It's a great day to be in Durham. It's a great day to be a small business in Durham. Today, small businesses can export anywhere around the world. In fact, 96% of today's U.S. small businesses markets are around the world and in other countries. So, as a small business, are you ready to export? That is the question. And today, what we want to do with the distinguished panel that we have is to dispel some of the myths about small businesses and exporting. The panel will tell you about the resources that are available for small business. It will give you an overview of North Carolina exports. And it also will give you kind of a climate of the marketplace, how to look at the feasibility of the markets in other countries, the technical assistance and resources that are available in this area for small businesses to develop and to grow their business by exporting, and also some of the advantages and disadvantages of exporting, and some of the risk factors that are involved in exporting as well. But one of the focuses of today's session is agribusiness. So you will hear as well from exporting and taking your products and services to foreign markets today. All right, so we're going to get started this morning. First, let me say I'm from the Small Business Technology Development Center, my organization that I work for, and I'm also part of the Small Business Advisory for the city of Durham. And my office is located on the campus of North Carolina Central University, and we provide that technical assistance that you need as a small business to grow your business and to make your business better. Okay, our first panelist this morning, International Business Development, and it's Alex Viva. He's my colleague with the SBTDC in the International Business Development Council. Alex.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Mary. If I could have my presentation up, I can get going here. Good morning. As Mary said, my name is Alex Viva. I'm with the Small Business and Technology Development Center. We are part of the University of North Carolina system, so we have offices in all of the campuses across North Carolina, ready to help small businesses in just about everything they need in terms of finance, in terms of management, HR issues, really to be there for the support of small businesses throughout North Carolina. Since we are part of the University of North Carolina system, it really kind of fits with the mission of the universities here, encouraging entrepreneurship, the teaching, assisting in creation of and expansion of small businesses throughout North Carolina, and also focus on technology, helping the technology companies expand, develop their technology, and commercialize it. We're involved a lot in education and teaching, as well as research and outreach and engagement. When we have a disaster here in North Carolina, especially now during hurricane season, the SBTDC is usually the first people online there to help small businesses recover. We're part of a group of agencies throughout the United States here. We work with our federal partners here. We work with our North Carolina partners. We've been part of the SBA, Small Business Associations Development Centers now since 1984. We work with the Technical Procurement Assistance Centers, with the Defense Logistics Agency, as well as being the EXIM Bank, which is Export-Import Bank of the United States partner. And then this year, we started a relationship with OPIC, the Overseas Private Investment Corporation, that helps companies protect and purchase assets overseas. Some of our core business services are business counseling, education and training, applied research, and of course we're very big on advocating the small businesses throughout North Carolina. Some of our development services that we have are, again, government procurement, working with federal, state, local governments, and helping small businesses get involved with that, with those procurements. Technology commercialization services, helping your company develop those technologies and bring it to market. International business development, which I am part of. We have a boating industry services group, a marketing and research services group that helps small businesses develop their websites, how to use the websites and Google searches and these things to become more visible out there to the world. And of course, strategy and organizational development, helping your company develop the processes, develop the organization within to be successful. Now, I'm here to talk about international business development. We like to call ourselves from the SBTDC on the business side of exporting. All of our specialists, which we have 3 across the state, are certified global business professionals, meaning that not only do we have close to 100 years of experience internationally in both finance, operations, marketing, but that we really know all of the ins and outs of international business there. Statewide offices, I am located in our North Carolina state office, responsible for the triangle to the coast. Owen George is in our Winston-Salem office, responsible for the Triad, and Mary Romano is in our Charlotte office for the western part of the state. Now, although we're set up regionally, we all work together very nicely. We use our strengths to help out small businesses. We work with a lot of partners out there, good collaboration. Many of them are here already, NC Ag, North Carolina Department of Commerce International Trade Division, the U.S. Department of Commerce International Trade Administration. We work with OPIC, SBA, Blink, and the Export-Import Bank of United States. So what am I here to talk about today? Where can SBTDC be helpful? What are some of the things that we have to look at? And I like to call them go global considerations. And some of the things that we have to look at is both internal, external, and of course your product and service and how that goes into the global environment out there. First things we have to look at when we're talking about going international, going global, is that management commitment. Okay? If management is not behind it 100%, then we need to develop the strategies to make it fit with the risk, with the really make it, how can I say, where it fits with the company and their business plan and the owners or management of the company and fit with their risk mitigation. Okay? We'll take a look at your resource and overhead allocation. Help you develop that for international business. What are some of the staff and personnel decisions that have to be made? And of course, do we want to make international a centralized decision-making process or a decentralized decision-making process? We have to look at the product and services and how that fits into the global environment. We'll help you take a look at the demographic of the user. Are there markets out there that fit with what your product or service represents out there? What type of market should we be getting into? Do we have to make any changes to that product to fit into different markets out there? What are your competitive advantages? How can we take advantage of those and be able to expand internationally? What's the most effective distribution strategy if you do have a product out there? Do we want to go direct through distribution? Do we want to use agents? Do we want to piggyback onto a larger corporation that already has those distribution networks set up? We'll help you think through those decisions out there. And one of the things that SBT is very well known for is helping on the financial side. It's important to have that adequate cash flow out there. What does the strategy fit in international with your resources available? And if you don't have those resources available, how can we get to them? SBA, Ex-Im Bank, both of them have a very nice loan guarantee for export working capital. We can help you develop your business plan, develop your finances so it fits with what they're looking for in order to export product out there. Again, are we looking at direct entry versus indirect entry? What is the easiest way to get your product out to market? And of course, depending on your product or your services, is it something that needs to get out to the market quickly, or can we take our time with it? Can we develop a nice strategy with it? And some products out there are very seasonal, they're short-lived, and we need to react quickly. We'll help you develop those strategies. We have to look at your manufacturing capabilities. And again, I say we're on the business side of exporting. Okay? So what are your manufacturing capabilities? What if your sales increase by 10, 20, 30%? Can you handle that? Do you have the capacity? If not, what do we need to do there? I'm working with several companies right now that are very full capacity. They're at 100% capacity during their high season. Okay? So they're looking at markets that will help even out that manufacturing capacity throughout the year. The response turnaround time. We have to look at your systems too, because in order to track exports, there's different regulations and you have to keep those things separately. We'll help you take a look at your systems and make sure that they function well with international business. product, technical modifications, training, documentation. Do we need to localize it to a language? We'll help you make those decisions as well. I always use the analogy of the sleep number bed, because there is no right way, no right strategy of international business. It depends on your own business. It depends on the management. It depends on what are your risks out there and whether you're willing to take risk or you're risk averse out there. So although you may be right next to somebody else who's going international as well, they might be more comfortable with a setting of 35, or you'll be more comfortable with a setting of 75. Again, the business strategy involved in international needs to reflect the company itself. Just because your neighbor is doing it one way doesn't mean it's the right way for you. So we'll help you go through those decisions, build up the business side of exporting. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We would like to thank Alex for that presentation. We ask that everyone will make note of your questions and hold them to the end of the session till we get to our Q&A period. And now to transition us to our next presenter, we're going to present Mary Spade again.
Collectively, over 100 years of experience at your disposal so that you can develop your business for exporting. And it also dispels the myth that exporting is too complicated. If you really have that passion in your belly to export and you know that you have a product, then there are people and there are resources here to help you. So we want to thank Alex for revealing all those services that are available and those that SBTDC has. And we're going to hear more from our next panelist. Coming up, Peter Thornton with Agri-business International Marketing. He's the Assistant Director of International Marketing, North Carolina Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. Peter.
Thank you very much, Mary. And first of all, thank you for coming out today. Exports are what are going to drive growth in North Carolina in the future, and so is small business. And the combination of the fact that you're out here and you're looking at exports as you are the future. And thank you for that, and thank you for the impact you're going to have in the North Carolina economy. We could not be successful without you, and we appreciate you taking the time to come out here. And I've always told people, it's easy to find markets for products, and we can sit there on a computer and find markets. The challenge is finding people, small businesses in North Carolina that are willing to take the time and invest it in learning and actually exporting. I get it, exporting is scary, it's big, it's challenging, but it can be done. And don't let anybody tell you that your business can't do this. I'll tell you, every one of the success stories that I've seen, I can sit down and list 100 reasons why they should not be successful. But they are successful, they're making money, and they're getting rich exporting. Now, one of the big challenges, especially small business just starting out, is finding money. I don't know anybody that has enough of it, and I know a lot of people that get into exporting and spend a lot of money that perhaps they could have spent better elsewhere. There's a lot of things you can do to get into the export market that don't cost anything, that are services that are already provided. A lot of them are right here in front of you. I highly encourage you, before you make the financial investment, do the homework, and you'll even find, and if you're lucky, you may even find the markets will come to you. First thing to do is get to know your staff. You have an incredible wealth of knowledge in front of you, and working for state and federal levels, working at the university level and in the private sector that are there to talk to you and to help you through the process. Talk to them, get to know them. If you talk to one, the other ones are going to tell you who else you need to speak to. Start networking, get out there and start mixing and mingle with the international community. You'd be surprised how much people want to help you. In addition, there's no shortage of market research out there for you, for your products. If you're fortunate enough to be in agriculture, there are ATO reports all over the country, or I'm sorry, the embassies all over the world provide reports on your products. If you're in commerce, which I bet a fair number of you are, the embassies also, commercial service have that, and I'll let John get into that. You have an incredible wealth of knowledge, which I'm sure NC Commerce is going to tell you about, in the overseas offices of NC Commerce. These are tremendous resources that you have that are sitting waiting for your call. And also freight forwarders. These are the guys that do export your product every day. They'll talk to you all day long before you ship. And they'll talk to you for free, and they know all the hiccups and all the challenges that you're going to face. Get to know them. They obviously want to talk to you because later they're going to hope that you use their services. And if they're good, this is a way to vet their services to find out if they are worth your time. But talking to these people know, have been through it. These are the folks you need to get to know. Next thing you probably may need, if you haven't done it before, you may need some training. We have, at our department, every time we find someone that knows what they're talking about, we put them in front of a video camera and we videotape it and we put it on our website. We have a section on our website at ncagexports.com with training on every possible aspect that we can come up with. And we have past people who have been successful. We have people who can talk a whole range of products. Browse through there. Check out what's on there. You can learn a lot on that one website. Also, if you have a chance and you're fortunate enough, go attend some of the Small Business Administration courses on Exporting 101. These are better courses than anything you'd find, except maybe at NC State, at any university across the United States. They're tremendous hands-on practical information. Go out, meet Dan Holt at the Small Business Administration, talk to him, let him explain to you all the challenges you'll face. And if you like, we'll be happy to send you a handbook on the basics of exporting. It's free, and it covers it from the beginning to the end. I will warn you, it's what they give to insomniacs who don't respond to hard medication, but it has all the information in there that you could possibly ever want. Next thing, determine your best market, and I think we've talked a little about this. If you're fortunate enough to be in agriculture, we have something called Euromonitor reports that we have access to in our office. This is provided to us by USDA. It's a tremendous resource. It's what the Fortune 500 companies use when they invest in the country. And my favorite thing to do on that is take your product, look at the potential growth rate of your product in every country in the world, and then rate all those countries in order of potential growth. And then you'll discover that in very short order, where are the best markets for your products? And I bet you 9 times out of 10, it's not the country you thought of. And that gives you a start, because there's a lot of countries out in the world to try to figure out which one you want to export to. This will give you a very good start in figuring out which is the best ones you should start hunting down. In addition, the embassies are constantly putting out reports on your products. They're on the website. Let's not just leave them for the Australians to read. Pull them up, look at it. It gives incredible knowledge for you in what is in that market and what are the opportunities and the challenges in each market. And if you're in agriculture, you're probably going to need to worry about phytosanitary certificates and health certificates and things like this. Talk to the folks at APHIS, or we'll guide you through them, and make sure you know what's involved and make sure you can reach those standards before you spend too much time investing in that market. And then finally, talk to the embassy in that market. Say, I think I've done my research. I think this is my product. What do you think? And they're living there. They know what, they've probably seen someone else try to do what you're doing. They're going to tell you the lessons learned, what the challenges you're going to face. Give them a call. Step 4, we've discovered that companies that know how much the product costs sell a lot more than the ones that don't. When someone comes up to you and says, how much is your product delivered to my port? You have to have an answer. Talk to your freight forwarder. Determine something called your free on board cost or your CIF cost, if it's delivered to the port in North Carolina or if it's delivered to a port in, in China. You have to know what the cost is delivered to the port. Freight forwarders provide that information to you. Ask, find out what it is. In addition, there are other things that you need to worry about, such as, what is my actual export cost? What are all the expenses that I'm going to incur in exporting? Dan Holt does a great job of explaining all that to you if you take the SBA course. We also have a worksheet on our website in our toolbox on how to do that. Take a few minutes, figure out what your actual costs are. Don't overprice yourself in the market, and sure as heck, don't sell at a loss. We've done some research, and we found out that people like to get paid for their services and goods. And in fact, Jerry to my left is going to talk to you about that, so I'm not going to steal his thunder, but I highly recommend getting paid. So figure out how you're going to get paid. There are free customer leads out there. There are constantly people at the embassies who are collecting people saying, do you have the product that you're making? Find them. Ask for them. There's a trade lead service with USDA. I'm sure the U.S. Commercial Service has something as well. There are listings of established buyers in individual markets. These things are publicly available. You just need to ask for them. Sign up with something called the Southern U.S. Trade Association, which is a federal program that works with the North Carolina Department of Agriculture. They have trade leads, and they have access to buyers traveling through North Carolina. We bring buyers of agricultural products through North Carolina to your back door. All you have to do is show up and present them your product. This does not cost you a lot of money. You just have to pay for the gas to get there. And at the very least, even if they say no, you've got an international buyer explaining to you why they said no. And that is incredibly valuable. And you didn't have to get on a plane and go halfway around the world to find that out. Job 7, get your name out there. There are directory listings at NCDA, USDA has directory listings, SUSTA has directory listings. Put your name on the exporting list. When people are looking for your product, make sure they can find you. Talk to the overseas commerce staff. John will probably talk about the roadshow later. Tremendous resource where they come to North Carolina. You should meet each one of these folks. Make sure they know you're out there and make sure they know what your product is. So if somebody comes up to them looking for your product, they know who you are. Job 8, look for the money. There is support out there. It's not a lot. It's hard to find, but there's things out there. In agriculture, we're fortunate to have something called the MAP branded program. In that program, they'll pay if your company meets certain specifications, and this is the government, so there is some paperwork involved. But if your government meets if your product meets certain specifications, the U.S. government will pay for half of your marketing costs, half of your airplane costs, half of your trade show costs, half of your hotel, half of your legitimate marketing expenses. Tremendous resource out there. There's a tax credit at the state ports. You should know about that. There are subsidized events through NCDA or USDA and SUSTA on reduced cost trade shows. Highly recommend those are some of the first places you look. And obviously you've talked about, and there's export financing as well. Once again, when you go talking to these folks, be a pest. Talk to them, ask them, what's out there? Where can I get some help? And they will have answers for you. Or they'll tell you honestly if there isn't, but you need to ask. You need to start asking people. There's other resources out there. There's research all over the place, probably on your product. Pull it out. It didn't cost you anything. It cost somebody else to do it, but you can piggyback on that research. Get that research, use it. Talk to trade groups. Talk to the trade groups. If you are in agriculture, there's a soybean trade group, there's a processed food trade group, there's all sorts of different trade groups. Those guys are overseas markets already. Those are people you should know. They know probably in better detail the challenges you'll face or the opportunities that are out there than anybody else. Talk to those people because they live it every day. And keep in touch with your international staff. Constantly meet with them, attend their events. New leads come up, and the people that we talk to tend to get more information than the people we don't talk to. We're trying to figure that one out. And job 10, everything we know is on our website. If we have a problem on our website is there's too much stuff and it's hard to navigate, feel free to call us, but bookmark our website, ncagexports.com, and all this information and more is on that website. And thank you very much. If you have any questions, my contact information is up there, and I look forward to speaking to you. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, Peter. We would also like to reiterate that all of these presentations will be available on the City of Durham's Office of Economic and Workforce Development's website. And if you signed in outside at the registration table and place your email address, they will be emailed to you later this afternoon. Mary?
So you think you're too small to be in exporting. That's another myth for small businesses. I'm too small to export. And Peter just provided you with all the resources, lots of resources that are available to you. It's like you're a small business and you're getting started and you don't have all the departments, say that a GlaxoSmithKline or Duke Power has, but they are out there and there are many different levels of it available to you based on where you are. So thanks, Peter. It gets better and better. You're getting more and more resources to do the job, to help you do the job. Next coming up is our trade credit insurance, which is one of my favorite topics. And most businesses, when they come in, they want to find the money. And Jerry Glickman with Credit Insurance Specialty Broker, Business Credit Solutions, Inc. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mary, and I want to thank Peter for the introduction as well. Most people never heard of trade credit insurance. Don't feel bad if you haven't. Most people absolutely haven't heard about it. My kids can't figure out what I'm doing. I've been doing this for 25 years, and most insurance professionals don't know about trade credit insurance. And so I am a specialty broker. It's the only kind of insurance I'm involved in. So it's an invaluable aid to successful international and domestic business. So most of us are here because you want your business to grow. And how do you do that? Well, you can sell more to the same customers. That's always one way to grow your business. But you need larger credit limits if you're selling on credit. You want to find new customers in the same markets that you're selling in. But the number of domestic buyers is not increasing. And you want to find new customers in new markets, which is what we're all here about today and exporting overseas. But maybe you're not familiar with the customers and the markets. So to compete effectively today in the global market, it's essential to offer open credit terms. And whether they're foreign or domestic customers, unless you're selling a very unique product that they cannot get anywhere else, to be competitive, you have to offer credit terms. So these are some of the internal challenges to expanding your business. The first one is lack of capital. The second is you're not real sure about the economy. You're not familiar with new markets. You worry about the creditworthiness of new and current customers. Maybe you're not comfortable extending terms. And maybe you've experienced painful bad debt losses in the past. And you find that the competition is offering better terms to the buyer than you are. Then there are external challenges to expansion, and as I say here, the risks are very real. We have economies and currencies on the brink of collapse. There are revolutions, earthquakes, tsunamis, nuclear meltdowns, hurricanes, $100 and more barrels of oil, $1,700 plus ounces of gold, and fewer new domestic buyers. All of these things are very real issues that you face when you're expanding your business. Not only are you worried about your own business, but will your customers survive? However well you know your markets and your customers, insolvencies and buyer defaults are real, and they happen every single day. If your customers are not up to the challenge, will their problems become your problem? Liquid capital tied up in accounts receivable can be as much as 40% of a company's assets. If you look at your balance sheets, when you get past equipment, accounts receivable is usually the largest asset on your balance sheet. And we all become reliant on our customers' good payment habits to run our businesses. So, the question I ask everybody I ever talk to in this business is, what would happen if your largest customer couldn't pay you? Well, the answer is several things. Your annual profits become severely reduced or disappear entirely. You might have difficulty or inability to pay your vendors. You'll lose ability to take trade discounts if they're offered in your industry. You may have to go out and borrow or invest more capital in your business. And in the worst case scenario, you'll go out of business. So, what if you could borrow more money and at more favorable terms? Have a partner to share the credit risk. Have access to world-class credit evaluations. Extend more favorable terms and larger credit limits with more comfort. Have continuous monitoring of customer creditworthiness and support the sales goals and initiatives. That is one of the largest problems you have in most companies that are trying to sell new business. The salespeople will always bring in business, but the credit department's got a problem and they can't ship it. Or they won't ship it because they feel the risk is too high. So, I welcome you to the world of trade credit insurance. Now, as a pure insurance product, like any other product that you would buy in the insurance market, it'll protect you against unexpected and catastrophic credit losses. The worst kind of loss you could have is with your life insurance policy. But with credit insurance, you're extending terms in markets that you're unfamiliar with, political risk issues, and you can have a catastrophic credit loss very easily. Credit insurance provides guidance via credit management policies and procedures, and it ensures you are selling credit-worthy customers. Now, that's not to say that credit-worthy customers won't pay you, because what's good today may not be good a few months from now when they're ready to pay the bill. Credit insurance will allow you to create sales expansion and better customer relations by granting terms rather than cash or letters of credit. Now, a lot of what you're going to hear today from the other agencies are all before it comes time for you to get paid. If you're using letters of credit and have knowledge of letters of credit, there are many problems that could be inherent in getting paid on the letters of credit. Credit insurance is a wonderful choice to have rather than use letters of credit. And it also enhances the value of your receivables. Lenders love collateral. Accounts receivable is a moving collateral, and banks will love to lend you money on your accounts receivable when you have insurance. They're made beneficiary of the policies in many cases, so if you do have losses, the money goes directly to the bank. Now, I represent both the private and government sector of credit insurance, and today we're going to now talk about the Export-Import Bank of the United States. Even though it's called a bank, they don't loan any money. But what they do is create guarantees for banks and create credit insurance programs and fill the void that the private sector doesn't fill. And so they're an independent federal agency, and they help create and maintain U.S. jobs by filling gaps in private export financing and at no cost to the American taxpayer. In the past 5 years, Exim Bank has earned for the U.S. taxpayer $1.9 billion above the cost of their operations. This is not costing you 10 cents. They provide a variety of financing mechanisms, working capital guarantees, export credit insurance, and financing to help foreign buyers purchase U.S. goods and services. They approved $32.7 billion in total authorizations in fiscal 2011. and that's an all-time Exim Bank record. It continues to grow. Most of the large transactions are done in the aviation industry. Boeing, who sells internationally, uses this program more than any other company in the United States. And of course, the authorizations are supporting an estimated $41 billion in U.S. export sales and approximately 290,000 American jobs in communities across the country. The government wants more jobs, and they will do everything they can to assist you in creating those jobs while you're making money and growing your business. So who's eligible for an Exim Bank policy? They do business in most foreign markets. There are some countries where the political risk is so high that you cannot sell into certain countries. They are also involved with commercial risk, which is just the business-to-business risk. Certain military or defense items are generally not eligible, so if you're planning on selling weapons to another country, you're probably not going to get the government to help you do that. They're very interested in support for environmental beneficial exports. If you're involved in any kind of environmentally beneficial products and services, the government's going to help you a great deal with the financing and the credit extension. So that's something to keep in mind if you're here and doing that. For the exporter, you're going to eliminate expensive and burdensome letters of credit. Credit insurance is a lot cheaper than letters of credit. Your buyers would be more than happy to get credit instead of having to cost them money to post LCs for your business. You will become more competitive by offering credit terms. Research has shown that credit terms versus LC, credit terms will win out every time. You will increase your sales. And then there's the political risk portion of what we do in Exim Bank. There are so many reasons not to get paid that have nothing to do with the viability of the company you're selling to. And some of that is political violence, revolutions, insurrections, civil unrest, terrorism, or war. Governmental expropriation of or confiscation of assets. That happened in Venezuela. Recently, they take over certain industries and private industries and just take the assets and say, we own it. And that, of course, if you're selling to those companies, you're not going to get paid. But the insurance would cover those sort of events. And it could be wrongful calling of an LC, which means something's wrong. You left off a dot on the I or crossed your T. You can have business interruption, and you can run into a problem where the currency gets frozen and you can't convert the foreign currency into dollars. So those are all types of coverages that are covered under the Exim Bank Trade Credit Insurance Program. Now, they have several different kinds of policies, but I won't go into it and bore you with them all. They're all custom tailored to your business. Some businesses need bigger types of policies. You have short-term credit, medium-term credit, and then you have what we call the single buyer, multi-buyer, and specialty policies for small and medium-sized businesses. These programs have been developed because the private sector just doesn't address these things. If you're a beginner in the export business and you have one customer, you can approach Exim Bank for an insurance policy. You cannot do that in the private marketplace. And so they've come up with a new multi-buyer policy called Express Insurance. You have 20 or less customers and you fit the SBA definition of a small business, which is 500 or less employees. You're eligible for this program. The government will obtain all the credit information on your customer, and all you're going to do is pay the premium for the policy. There's working capital loan guarantees. That's mostly with the bank, where the bank is going to finance a transaction for you and the customer's overseas, and they need financing. Exim Bank will step in and say, okay, we will guarantee payment of that loan to your foreign customer. The features of these policies is there's no first loss, there's no deductibles, there's a very simple premium rate, and you can enhance these policies for your banks. So you can assign it to the bank, make them happy. They'll lend you money. We talk about capital, how do you get it? This is one way to expand your business by getting financing on exports. So basically, the short-term policy helps your business expand to foreign markets, add new buyers, and transfer all the foreign credit decisions to Exim Bank at a very economical cost. Basically, this is some of the information on the express policy. As long as the credit limits aren't $300,000 or larger, this policy will fit for most small exporters. That's usually going to be the level you're going to be trading in is under $300,000. It's a pay-as-you-go. You don't have to pay for anything up front. You report your sales on a monthly basis, and then you pay the invoice within 15 days of reporting the sales. All the credit reports are going to be purchased by Exim Bank, and right now they've waived the $500 advance deposit, so it makes it even easier to get yourself an Exim Bank policy. You have to have less than $7.5 million in export credit sales over the last 3 years. That's one of the qualifiers. And you have to have at least 1 year operating history and a positive net worth for your own company. So all you need to apply for this is a Dun & Bradstreet number and 20 or less foreign customers. If you have those two things, you can apply for Exim credit insurance. Basically, it'll cover insolvency, bankruptcy, 95% coverage, political loss coverage, no first loss deductibles, and the rates are based on the terms of sale that you offer to your customer. And as you see on the chart, it's relatively inexpensive insurance, a lot less than the letter of credit will ever cost. So, helping you export. We have a panel of people here. Every one of us is motivated to help you export and grow your business. And there's no cost to use my services as well as some of the others. I'm registered with the U.S. Export-Import Bank. I do domestic and export credit insurance, and I'm a property and casualty broker in many states, especially here in the Carolinas. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. And we will bring back to the stage Mary Spate.
So we just dispelled another myth. Exporting is too risky. Well, the state of North Carolina and the United States government really want to encourage exporting, so we've taken care of some of the risk in terms of insurance and trade credit insurance. And it's really real that you really need that trade credit insurance, because I've had a client to get involved in exporting. He got involved on it on kind of a, thought who he knew. But then when the cargo somehow got missing, in the shipment and he had no recourse, guess what? He went out of business. So it is risky if you don't take those precautions. So thank you, Jerry. All right, now we have the United States Commercial Service, Shirreef Loza, Senior International Trade Specialist for the United States Department of Commerce. Shirreef.
Thank you, Mary, and thank you very much to the City of Durham and the North Carolina Institute of Minority Economic Development for this opportunity. I'm delighted to be here to talk to you all about exporting and how you can do it and how you should do it, particularly because you have these tremendous resources here in front of you, a lot of which is free. A lot of the things I'm going to talk about today are free. I want to introduce myself again. I'm Shirreef. I'm with the U.S. Department of Commerce. I'm located in Raleigh, and I'm a part of a small team in Raleigh. We have colleagues in Greensboro and Charlotte as well, and we're a team across the state of North Carolina from the U.S. Department of Commerce that are your domestic liaisons to the embassies worldwide. Our primary mission is to help you export. That's what we do. There's actually a division in the federal government that's dedicated to help small businesses sell internationally. And this particular initiative, the National Export Initiative, really cast a light on our organization and really small business exports. That's something that was really something that the Boeings were doing, the Fords were doing, and small businesses were not as engaged as they should be. Well, President Obama announced his National Export Initiative as a part of his broader economic recovery plan for the United States. The idea is, if we can get small businesses selling beyond the United States, that's a tremendous advantage to U.S. economy, U.S. job growth, and to U.S. security. The U.S. Commercial Service is a network of professionals across the United States, and most importantly, across the planet in embassies. There are commercial sections there where there are industry specialists that are from that respective country that work with U.S. small businesses to help them succeed in that market. A number of North Carolina businesses are taking advantage of these products and services right here every day. Market research, absolutely free. And there's so much market research, in fact, that you probably just want to give me or my colleague Francis a call to figure out how to manage all the information that's out there. What we do is help you try to understand what your international potential is by reviewing this market research and help you target what your best markets are going to be. And when I say best, what I mean is where are you going to have success and where are you going to spend the least amount of energy and resources to get that success. And we do that by bundling a lot of services with the partners that are on this panel and others that are not, in fact. Some of these other services that you see here are going to be more customized solutions. I want to pay particular attention to the Gold Key service. The Gold Key service is when the U.S. Embassy, well, let's say it like this. You come to me, you say, I want to sell my product in country X. We review that, we verify that. We go to the U.S. Embassy in country X, and we say, is this product going to be viable there? Based on the market research that the specialist in that country is going to do, they verify, yes, let's move forward. And in fact, I think we can customize a solution for you called the Gold Key service. And that's where we become a sales agent for you. So you're a small business here in North Carolina. There's 3 people. But the U.S. Department of Commerce and the U.S. government in Canada is going to knock on the door and represent you to international buyers saying, here's a great North Carolina company with a lot of potential in your market. What do you think of this? And we build a series of appointments for you, and you go out one by one to meet with them and evaluate whether or not you want to move forward in doing business with them. Now, the estimated delivery time for that is 6 to 8 weeks. Sometimes it can get a bit longer, depending on the market and depending on the time. But the cost for that is $700. So I want to say that again. We can become a sales agent for you for free once we decide that we can represent you and be effective for you, which means we think you're going to succeed. We're going to charge you a nominal cost for the customized solution we provide for you, and then we're your support network and support team from that point forward. And there are a number of other customized solutions that we can get into, like the single company promotion, which is more of a broader version of the Gold Key service. So instead of introducing you to unilateral appointments, a single company promotion is really an event that the U.S. Department of Commerce, the U.S. Embassy will build for you. Oftentimes, we can get the U.S. ambassador engaged and do it at the ambassador's residence. Again, these are all services that North Carolina firms take advantage of daily. Here are some specific examples of the market research reports that are out there. In particular, please notice the country commercial guide. That is a 100-page document published every year by every embassy on every country. And what it reviews are what are the best prospects for U.S. firms in that market, what are the upcoming projects, maybe they're building schools, bridges, roads, what are the political risk assessments, key contacts, key industry associations. These are all kinds of information that you want to at least review on the plane when you're getting there. But what I would say is, before you get there, when you have an international question, when you're considering going to a trade show in an international market, take advantage of the resources that you've already paid for. The U.S. Department of Commerce, U.S. Commercial Service exists because it's paid by taxpayers' dollars. You've paid for it. If you're not using it, you're not taking advantage of a sunk cost. Okay? Trade counseling, talking to me about what your real international opportunities are, that's absolutely free. Talking to industry representatives that are on the ground in the embassy, it's absolutely free. If you come to us and say, hey, we have somebody from China has come to us, met them at a trade show, they want to represent us. I don't know this guy from Adam. Should we move forward? Well, we may have that information and be able to tell you pretty quickly, you don't want to move forward with that at all, stay away from it, that costs you nothing. You may come to us and we say, we know him very well. My goodness, please, that's a fantastic deal. Let us know how we can continue to support you moving forward. More than likely what we'll say is, we don't know that person from Adam either. So let's do an evaluation. Okay. That evaluation costs $600. It's called an International Company Profile. And what we do is do a physical locality check, interview the principal at that business, call the phone number, check the website, check the financials, and give you a 7-page summary of what we think their partnership capability would be like. Okay? So think of us as a relationship, not just a service provider. Sure, we do services, and I'm talking about some of them. But what I really want to focus on is the fact that we are a relationship for you. We are constantly there for you. If you get something hung up in customs, we help you get it out. If you want to participate at a catalog show or a trade show, we can help represent you while you're there. If you want to build buyers, networks of buyers, develop a strategic focus, we can employ some of our resources and a lot of the partner resources that you see here to help build a customized, cost-effective, international, proactive business strategy. Here's an example of a North Carolina success story. This is they're not quite rural, but it's getting there. And ESP, they make state-of-the-art power protection products. And despite the fact that they are a best-in-class product and that the industry does recognize them as a leader, they find tremendous value in partnering with the U.S. Department of Commerce, not only for effective or cost-effective solutions, but it just goes a long way when you're promoting yourself in Bulgaria to know that this is, to the Bulgarian entities, that this is a business that's being recognized by the federal government of the United States. These guys aren't going to just go away. And to be frank, we don't just work with any U.S. business. We're going to have to work with legitimate businesses that have a legitimate interest in that market. And if there's not going to be, we will tell you. We don't want you to spend $700, get on a plane, waste time and energy if it's not going to be there for you. Here's another example of a North Carolina company that's succeeding. And when I say succeeding, I'm talking about 140 markets. These guys train the show CSI when CSI wants to be educated on their next episode. They train the Italian FBI. When Iraq votes in a new president, it's their fingerprint powder that's used in the election. So these guys are very well recognized. And yet, when it came to finding a way to just systematically, cost-effectively, and simply build an entry strategy into Libya, they found the best way to do that was with us. And we built an event around what we call a single company promotion. And we brought in 35 people from law enforcement from Libya and various ministries, as well as U.S. government officials and private sector entities. And it yielded yielded several successes, one that you see here. This is my contact information, and again, it's just 2 of us here in Raleigh, but we're happy to receive calls, emails, see you at local shows, educational events, and talk to you more about what we can do specifically for your small business. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shirreef. We want to remind everyone that at the end of today's session, we will have an evaluation assessment survey that we would like everyone to complete. That will help us to gauge the success of this event, and also we will get your input on future workshops and sessions that you may want to see the Small Business Advisory Committee and our collaborating partners offer small business owners that are Durham-based. We're going to bring back to the podium Mary Spate.
So you think you wrote that business plan when you started your domestic company, you might not need to do it again. Sounds like from the panel so far that you're going to need to do an export and business plan. Sorry about that. As we progress down the panel, you know, it's a process of developing that and assembling and doing the research and customizing that solution for your product or service, and helping you to identify even the broker, the sales rep, all that you might need to actually be in that country, even customize the marketing for you. So that's awesome, and it's all mostly paid for. I did hear that there was a $600 fee for the investigation, but well worth it, so that you know that you're dealing with the right people. So thank you, Shirreef. Our next panelist, international trade, John Loyack. Oh, wow. John.
Thank you, Mary. And like Shirreef, I'd like to thank the City of Durham and the Women's Business Center for providing this forum today. I mean, this is really a wonderful opportunity for us to get the message out, and it's clear that it's something that we're dedicated to doing, but we can't do this without you all. So thank you all for joining us today. Before I really jump into things, and I want to give you kind of a state of exporting and trade for the state of North Carolina, but before I jump into that, I thought I'd share some what I feel are interesting facts. And you know, we heard earlier one of the presenters comment on the impact of overall U.S. economic growth from international trade. And you know, one of the numbers I've seen in the past, and sure, this takes us back a few years, but in 2007, we saw that international trade overall contributed 40% of the new U.S. economic growth. Exports are really having an impact. Then, of course, we all know that we have a major trading partner in Asia, in China, and it's been growing significantly. So much so that we've seen bilateral trade going both ways, which is important for me to share. That's increased by over 1,200% since 1993. Here in the state of North Carolina, over the past few years, we've seen trade between North Carolina companies and China increase by over 600%. So it's massive. Having said that, they're not our largest trade partner, and I'll get into that in a moment. Also important to note, and I think we heard Mary mention this as she kicked off, is that over 95% of exporters are small and medium-sized companies. While that's very impressive, it's important to share that of the overall 27 million small businesses in the U.S., only about 1%, just under 1%, are actually exporting. Part of the reason that we're here today is not only that, but 60% of these export to only one country. So the idea of pulling us all together here today is to let you know that we have folks here, we have departments here throughout the state of North Carolina that are designed to help you all get into markets or get into additional markets. To give you a picture of the state of North Carolina, let's start at the top. The top 10 exports accounted for over 79% of total shipments in 2011. You'll see a number of very large industry figures here. Chemicals at $4.8 billion is the largest export for North Carolina. But that also includes the ingredients that are going to major chemical manufacturers. That also goes to, that numbers include what could be a small 5-person chemical company here in the state that's supplying to another major manufacturer. Machinery equipment, transportation equipment, and of course, agricultural products. These are the types of things. It's literally everything from barbecue sauce to large equipment, to laptops, to pharmaceuticals, to the ingredients that go into pharmaceuticals that are being sent overseas. Now, who are we sending them to? Well, we keep a track of this as well. Obviously, Canada, not surprisingly, remains the largest trading partner of the state of North Carolina. And we actually saw a 16% increase last year. There are millions of dollars of commerce that are crossing border every single day. Products that are manufactured here in North Carolina that are going there. Having said that, Canada, and my Canadian friends would like me to remind you, is not the U.S. It is different. There are certain parts of the country where you may have to translate packaging material before they'll accept it. They do have their own associations and trade groups that are regulating different products there that you may have to go through a process with them. But as you can tell from the presentations earlier, we're here to help. China, of course, continues to increase. Mexico continues to be a fantastic trading partner of the state of North Carolina. Japan, of course, as well. But as you see, there was actually a 6% decrease there last year. That's largely due to the fact that not only did the Japanese suffer through just a horrible environmental crisis, but the nuclear crisis, the nuclear issue that they dealt with as a result of the environmental crisis is something that has hurt them tremendously. But they remain just a fantastic partner of the state of North Carolina. As a matter of fact, we have many major Japanese companies that have invested in the state of North Carolina and have opened headquarters, plants, different facilities here in the state as well. Germany remains our largest partner in Europe and saw a fantastic amount of growth last year. And the final one I'll include there is Brazil. And it's important to mention Brazil, not necessarily because they're the 10th largest export destination, but more importantly, it's the growth that we're seeing there. In 2002, that number was under 220 million. So you can see that the growth there is just absolutely fantastic. And it's grown to a point where the state of North Carolina has actually opened an office there as well. So the question that each of the panelists have mentioned here today, and one that we're here to help you answer, is whether or not your firm's ready to export. That's what we do. I'll focus for a moment on the North Carolina Department of Commerce International Trade Division. We have a very lean and mean team here, but we also have offices abroad. Here in North Carolina, we have 2 domestic offices. Most of us are based down in Raleigh, the capital, although we do have an office in High Point as well, where one of my colleagues who serves the needs of the furniture industry is based. In terms of our international coverage, we have offices in China. We have 2 offices, one in Shanghai, one in Hong Kong. We have an office in Tokyo. Here on this side of the planet, we have an office in Toronto, Mexico City. I mentioned recently Sao Paulo, Brazil. We also have an office based in London that gives us coverage throughout Europe as well. As Shirreef mentioned earlier, we've got these resources that are based in these international markets. Now, from the state of North Carolina perspective, we don't necessarily cover every country, and we certainly get requests for help from different countries. But where we do have folks, there's no charge for any of the fees. So we offer our own version of a Gold Key service out of our Toronto office or our Sao Paulo office, for example. And where needed, we'll tap into the U.S. commercial service. So our offices are all there to help you all at absolutely no charge. So the types of services that Shirreef mentioned, like things like background checks, things like having someone drive by a facility to make sure that that facility actually exists, and that the address is actually a true address, to make sure that you all are working with legitimate business partners. These are all services that our international offices offer at no charge to you all. In addition, we find a lot of North Carolina companies even develop a personal relationship with our international offices. And so when you're traveling abroad, I beg you to reach out to us. Let us know in advance, and where we have coverage, we'll let one of our people know. So if one of you were to tell me that you've been invited to present at a trade show in Beijing, our representative from Shanghai can meet you there, can meet you in the lobby of your hotel, accompany you to the trade show, act as your interpreter while you're there, attend meetings with you, help you line up the meetings, and then take you out of the trade show, and take you into the city of Beijing to show you where Chinese people are buying your type of product and who the purchasers of your type of product would be. So this is the type of intimate relationship that we develop with North Carolina companies. And then, of course, here in North Carolina, we also have 6 folks based here. We are divided by vertical industries. So myself, for example, the industries I cover would be plastics, chemicals, and biotech. So I work with pharmaceutical companies, medical device companies, plastic and chemical companies here in the state, working with them to help them determine what the next market is. How do I get into a market? If I need the type of financing that I think I need, who should I go? Who's a broker who might be able to help me? We provide a conduit out to lots of other resources. So my colleagues would certainly ask me to ask you to tap into us at every opportunity you have. These are the types of consultations that we offer in order to help you prepare to get into these international markets. To give you an idea of the type of services overall that we offer, whether we're here or abroad, you've heard a lot of these different things. Certainly market research continues to be it. But we'll sit down with you and help you develop a strategic export plan based on research, based on a political scenario, based on one of the reports that we've read from the U.S. Commercial Service or something that we've heard about a particular market. If we know that a certain country, maybe for an unrelated industry, has begun to appropriate manufacturing facilities, we're going to let you know that, to let you know that there's been a shift in the climate. Those are the types of things that we're prepared to do, and we'll sit down with you and go through to advise you on the best options. For qualified companies, for those of you who are already doing this, a lot of you feel, hey, we're already there, we understand it, but maybe we can help you with a market that you're not currently broken into, or maybe you want to train staff on developing their export skills as well. There are things that we can do, educational programs that we offer that we'd be very happy to invite you to and provide you more background on. Throughout the year, there'll be different trade missions that are offered either by the state of North Carolina or by the U.S. Commercial Service. We want to make you aware of those as well, to take you on those. As Peter mentioned earlier as well, we know that not everybody's ready to jump on a plane. They don't necessarily have the budget to fly over to some of these wonderful international locations. So once a year, we bring all of our trade reps over here. So our international trade reps from China and Europe and Brazil will all come here. And we do a 1-week, 5-day roadshow where we barnstorm from Asheville to Wilmington, stopping in places like High Point and Raleigh and Charlotte along the way. And we do that in concert largely with the state community college system, who will provide the facilities and help us get things off the ground. And we open the doors to presentations by our foreign trade reps. So during one of those opportunities, next year when we're here in Raleigh, and we do this in the spring, you could sit down if Brazil is an area of interest, for example. We can sit down and give you a 1-hour, one-on-one consultation with a Brazilian national who may understand your industry inside and out and know the regulations that you're going to deal with and know the best way to determine your landed cost. Is it going to be better to maybe manufacture a product and ship it down there? And what are the costs associated with that? Those are the types of questions that you can go over with our reps on a one-on-one session. Maybe you're planning a trip and you're just looking for somebody who speaks the local language who can help you make your arrangements, maybe get you a great rate on a local hotel. Those are the types of things that our people will do. Now, I mentioned that a lot of those things, none of these come with any cost. The International Trade Division has its own budget. It's part of the Department of Commerce, and these services continue to be provided. Now, what has this actually led to? it's led to an awful lot. You know, in what we've seen is a tremendous increase in exports overall. The 2010 number for North Carolina was actually 25 billion. Overall, in terms of the U.S. state by state, that puts us at around number 15 in terms of exporters overall. We're very happy to see that number drop. Maybe we can get into the top 10 one of these days. But what this department has actually done is led to a number of different meetings for North Carolina companies, one-on-one consultations with our trade reps, of course, trade shows that have been attended, and certainly at the end, where the rubber really hits the road, is the number of actual sales that this has led to. So we continue to help North Carolina companies. We are here to help all of your companies. That's the type of thing that we do. And we literally get to the point where we understand that trade shows are important. And yet it's one thing that may be viewed as a luxury, especially when you're looking at international markets. Well, I'm here to tell you that the Department of Commerce International Trade Division will actually sponsor booths at select trade shows throughout the year. And last year, we attended over 23 international trade shows. These are trade shows where the Department of Commerce will cover the cost of the booth. We'll put up the flag. The state of North Carolina flag will be flying at a medical device show in Germany, and you all are welcome to join us there. You join us, you stand at the show with us, we'll introduce you to local contacts, we'll walk the floor with you, you can send the presentations. If you can't go, we can literally have your marketing material translated and we'll distribute it for you while we're there in order to find the right buyers for you. So those are the types of things that we do. Now, in order to further support our efforts, as Shirreef mentioned, there's the National Export Initiative. And so the SBA reached out to the 50 states in the U.S. and offered what they referred to as the STEP program, or this is the State Trade and Export Promotion Program. And it's one that allows us to even offer grant opportunities to North Carolina companies as well. This is something that tends to get people's attention pretty quickly because it gives us the ability, number one, to pay for a number of the services that you might otherwise have to pay for, like translation services. So as I mentioned, those marketing materials. We're working with our own translation service. If you needed some marketing material translated to Japanese before your next trade show, we can cover that cost for you. We'll also get to the point where not only do we provide export education for a company that's just beginning, but we can actually provide applications for travel grants. And so for those who would like to join us at some of these international trade shows, in some cases, based on your qualifications, you can even join us at a trade show and have the flight and hotel paid for. So these are the types of things that we're working with the SBA to provide even more support to small businesses here in the state of North Carolina. This is a slide that you've seen a couple times now. Alex, I'm going to have to get yours because you had the logos on there. But this is literally, I think, a great example now that we've seen it a number of times of the level of collaboration that exists between our different departments and different organizations. I would like to maybe call out the District Export Council. The North Carolina District Export Council is one that's, it's a state-based organization. It contains members of the government, both the Department of Commerce, the Department of Agriculture, the SBA representatives here in the state, the U.S. Commercial Service, of course, but more importantly, it includes members of the private sector, so local attorneys, local freight forwarders, different insurance brokers, different business owners, all participate in this District Export Council to promote export here in the state of North Carolina. That's an organization that you all would be very welcomed by at any given time. And it's something that was actually feted a bit recently when they were nominated as, or they actually won the award as the District Export Council of the Year for the United States, which is something we're quite proud of. We work closely with the ports. We work closely with the community college system. You know, there are a lot of resources. For those of you who don't know, you'll find a small business center in community colleges throughout this state. So I myself will spend time when I'm on the road visiting companies. I'll stop in at the local community college, visit with the business center there, and meet with other companies that may be even based on that facility. So it's something that that level of collaboration, I think, is something that's very unique here in the state of North Carolina. It's helped us reach the levels of exports that you've seen. But what's important to note is this is all meaningless without the small businesses of North Carolina, without you all and your participation in forums like this, one-on-one sessions with the folks here. You all are critical to this. So I ask you all to tap into the resources you've heard about today at any chance you get. I'll simply close by saying that in terms of next steps, you've heard from us all. These are the types of, we've been up here talking about the types of services we offer. I shared a little bit about the numbers that we've seen, the growth we've seen. We've told you we can identify international buyers for you. Take us to task now. Reach out and schedule a meeting with my colleagues here and determine your export readiness. Prepare yourselves, and we can help you figure out what the right market might be for you, who the right buyer in that market might be. Share some of your experience. You all, some of you may be experienced exporters as well, but maybe there's something that you need to change, or maybe there's a new market you're interested in. Tap into the resources that you've heard from today, and we'd be very happy to help you. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Now comes the part that concludes our panel presentations. And now comes the most important part of this session, and that's your participation to have your questions answered from any one of our panelists. I'm going to bring to the podium Browse Johnson, who is the director of the Women's Business Center of North Carolina, affiliated with the North Carolina Institute of Minority Economic Development. As you come to bring your questions, we ask that you use the microphone to your right and to my left. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. All right, now we're going to open up the floor for questions. We've heard of a lot of good information, a lot of resources that are available. So now it's your turn, as Thomas said. So questions? Come on, raise your hand. All right, would you mind coming up to the microphone? Thank you.
Good morning, and thank you for a great set of presentations. You've really opened my eyes quite a bit. My name is Allison Kalu, and I am the founder and CEO of a startup, and I must have had a lot of insight or perhaps intention when I named it Clinical Ambassador. Clinical Ambassador is essentially a cultural broker in the clinical research space, and what we enable the pharmaceutical industry to do is to reach underrepresented communities and populations for broader representation within clinical trials. And as you probably already know, we need that broad diversification of patients so that the drugs that are brought to market actually represent those who will eventually be marketed to. My question is, how do I wrap my head around exporting an intangible, like a service? Because we interface, we're liaisons, we make the process more palatable for those who might be reticent about participating. And I see the ability to replicate what we are getting a foothold in here overseas as well. And we think since industry is already making forays into export, they're doing the sourcing for manufacturing as well as the clinical trials themselves overseas already. What they need help with is the patient recruitment.
Sure, Jen, I'll take the first stab at that, but I would say that, yes, absolutely, there is opportunity for you. We have worked with architectural firms who they provide a service as well. They might be providing a design, but it's not surprising to know that in certain cultures, having an American name on the cornerstone of a building is something that is very highly sought after. So in terms of your services, I would say absolutely, there's an opportunity there. What I would recommend is you sitting down with someone like myself, let's get to understand the business a little bit more, and then I introduce you to some of my partners. Because what we'll hear from our international trade reps, for example, so Sumio Shibata, who is our trade rep based in Tokyo, for example, would be one of my first stops. We help, between you and I, we could sit down and come up with an elevator pitch to help someone like Sumio understand the business. And then he can understand something about the business, what your differentiators are, what makes your product special, and why Japanese interests might need to know about that business as well. So he can introduce you to Japanese academic research organizations, clinical research organizations, and move things along. One of the things I left out of my presentation is that it's not all about us taking North Carolina companies overseas. We have delegations from different countries that come here all the time, literally every week. We recently had a Turkish delegation in town. There was an Armenian delegation in town the week after that. We had a delegation from the Nanjing province in China who came by recently, and it was all pharmaceutical companies, all focused on how can we do more business with North Carolina pharmaceutical companies. Those are the kind of ties, as I understand your business. I can introduce you to different folks in those sort of settings right here in Durham, North Carolina.
I don't mind traveling. I have my passport.
Traveling's good too. Traveling's good too. But I think all of the above.
Thank you very much.
Sure. Thank you.
Does anybody else want to add to that, Shirreef?
I'll take a quick stab at that. I mean, I know that the Research Triangle Park is essentially the CRO capital of the world. So I will say that you are ahead of the curve. You're certainly ahead of the national curve. And from what we're seeing from a lot of reports, the CRO industry certainly is globalizing, but globalizing in the way that you're talking about, where it's actually more of a grassroots effort to bring in a broader patient pool, and that is getting sorted out. International health regulations, and particularly patient privacy and data transfer, that kind of stuff is complicated and is being sorted out. So long story short, everything's moving there, you're just moving there a little faster than government.
That's great. Anybody else, Alex? Anybody?
One of the things that everyone should take into account is that whether you're building a product or you have a service, a lot of the questions are the same. Okay? A service is an exportable product. Okay? The only thing is you're not going to see it, put out in a lot of the publications, and typically it's very difficult to track the amount of services that go out. But if we take a look at, especially in North Carolina, with all of the research institutes and the different companies involved in technology here, there is a lot of services being exported, know-how, okay? Not just product, but how to build something, how to design something, what are the processes out there. Whether you're a service or a product, you have to make sure that you do have your bases set. Know what type of resources that you have out there. You could say, oh gosh, we want to go international. We want to take over the world with our products or with our services, but do you have the resources? Do you have the personnel, especially when you're dealing in services? If you're an architect, well, you can't be out to 100 different countries designing 500 different bridges and buildings out there. So know what your capacities are, know what your capabilities are. If you need to focus, focus on that. Again, take into account your resources and your capabilities, and again, what is your risk on there? If you got a passport, wonderful. I think everyone who wants to do international business should have a passport. It's a great way to get to know the people that you're dealing with, the cultures that you're dealing with. Again, do your homework and make sure it fits with what you want to see with your business. International isn't for everyone. They say, well, gosh, somebody said I need to go to Brazil, I need to go to Germany. Well, you may have so many opportunities just right here in North Carolina that maybe that's best where your resources should be used. So make those decisions. Look at that, okay, within the context of your business out there. International might not be right for you. Going to 10 different countries might not be. Maybe one country is good for you. Okay? So again, think through it, build your strategy around your resources in your company.
Anybody else want to add to that one? Okay. Sir, any question?
Good morning. My name is Albert Akins, and I'm the president and CEO of REA-CDM, which stands for Regional Economic and Community Development Management. As you just mentioned, we're in the service industry, and until today, I was kind of had some questions about how we can actually provide services and export those type of skills and businesses and ideas that we have, and today has sort of enlightened me on things that we can do and how we can actually shape that. A couple of our clients, when we look within the community and look at strategizing for revitalization, we see here in particular in the area of Durham and Research Triangle Park, they have a couple of questions in regards to attaching their products to the major large companies. And some of the things that we looked at in regards to seeing how they can do this cost efficiently is in regards of the seaport and transportation, what that cost would be. So my question is that my understanding is that Morehead City along the coast area is the seaport area. And how does that work in regards to assessing the cost to get the product from Durham to wherever, whether that may be in Brazil, whether that may be in South Africa, and et cetera? The second question I have in regards to international trade is piggybacking on that, finding out what the cost is how do we attract international investors to a product over here? And what is the process to get them to say, you know what, I think this works, and you may want to invest in this particular area? And it's open to anyone on the panel to answer that.
All right, who wants to take a stab at that first?
Well, I'll take a stab at the, when you're looking at logistics and shipping costs on there, how does the ports of North Carolina fit into that? One of the things that we all work with is the ports here, and helps us decide what are the shipping lines that are there. We would try to get as much through the North Carolina ports as possible, but sometimes it's not the best way to go. Sometimes you have to put things on these huge ships, and although we have a deep water port, it's not set up for the very extra large ships that are coming into the area. But with the ports, we're working with different shipping lines and the different logistics carriers that do that. Jerry mentioned it, others mentioned it. Use them to find out what will be the costs to ship from Durham, whether you're putting it on a truck or a train to some other port and then shipping it out of there to the final destination out there. They will look at it and they'll say, here we go. This is how much it's going to cost. Here's your land cost. Here's your shipping cost. Here's going to be what the duties and insurance is going to be, so you can have a great idea of what your landed cost is in the other country. Okay? We can help you with that. Again, the logistics carriers can help you with that. There's a lot of support in there. My grandmother told me a long time ago, the no you already have. Right? So ask those questions. Go ahead and ask those questions out there.
And yeah, I'll field the. I'm sorry, Peter. I'll field the question just about international investment. We are. It's clear to us that we want to see things. The path of trade being bilateral, and so. In addition to the international trade reps we have, many of them are complemented by another colleague working for the North Carolina Department of Commerce who is focused on bringing investment here. So those introductions to those individuals is absolutely a part of what we do. And then, going to the international trade fairs, part of why we're there, it's all about developing these relationships. It's all about meeting these people, getting to know them, whether you hear from our trade reps in Tokyo, in China, in Europe, in Brazil, they're all going to say the same thing. Businesses in my country want to know who they're doing business with, so they want to meet the people that they're doing business with. Many of them come here. As I mentioned, the delegations that we greet on a weekly basis, they're coming here. In some cases, it takes the opening of an office overseas, which is something else that the Department of Commerce supports as well. And so we try to do a lot of those things. In addition, back in the fall, the governor took an Asian trade mission where she took a group of North Carolina companies over to China and Japan. And we'll do things like holding a reception where there's an opportunity for Japanese or Chinese businesses to come in, meet with some of their counterparts, all under the support of an effort organized by the Department of Commerce.
Peter, did you want to? Okay. Next question, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Matthew King, representing NCI Med, and we're developing a food production project. And I just wanted to kind of pick your brain to see if there was any innovative marketing opportunities that you've been seeing recently with North Carolina and their ability to connect farmers to any type of exporting projects.
What type of food products are you talking about?
Natural, organic, greenhouse production, food products.
And you're looking at, I'm sorry, and you're looking at taking a organic product, a fresh product, I assume?
Yes, sir.
And you're looking to potentially export that market?
Yes, sir. Or potentially go over to whatever country we're trying to affect and create a organic, a natural product there. So it might not necessarily be meant for us to ship the produce there, but to actually attend the country and create a organic or natural greenhouse production product.
So I hear you saying you're exporting a service?
Yes, sir.
A training service, and you're also potentially taking North Carolina agricultural products and exporting those as well?
Yes, sir.
The agriculture is an export-based economy, but it's also a slightly different animal. The major issue you're going to face is shelf life and shipping time. And that's going to determine your markets for the most part and how you get it out there. Generally, something like that, unless it's extremely high value in which you can get air freight, and that's very rare in agriculture because freight will usually determine your markets. Your primary markets are going to be ones that are relatively nearby that you can get to quickly. I'd leave it to Shirreef and John to talk about exporting the services itself, but the first step is to determine your markets and determine who in that market's going to want your product, and that's a discussion to have. Look forward to getting your business card afterwards and talking to you about that. But we'd be happy to help and like to provide that service to you.
And I was going to say, let me introduce you to my friend Peter Thornton. Certainly, if you have an agriculture question, this is how that partnership works. If you find one of us, we will certainly put you in contact with the appropriate person. And as Peter just did to me and to John, the service portion of your export business is something that we can certainly support. And I didn't address that question earlier. When our organization was built over 30 years ago, we were built to support manufactured goods. That's a reality. But we've morphed as industry has changed. And U.S. industry is more and more a service-based thing, and particularly in North Carolina. In fact, we look at exporting our education services. So when we have international students come to North Carolina, what they are purchasing is a U.S. service, a North Carolina service. They're paying out-of-state tuition. They are also renting and buying shirts and sandwiches. These are all really good things for the economy. Okay, so we do support services, and we realize that there's a benefit to the broader economic picture by doing that. But I'll turn it over to John to describe some of the ways that we specifically can work with you.
Yep, thank you, Shirreef. And going back to the first question that we had today, this is something that we sit down with North Carolina companies on a daily basis. As Peter mentioned, we'll do an exchange of cards after we're done, but we sit down. We have a one-on-one consult with a member of the Department of Commerce, walk through things so that we can help you determine what the right markets are, what the right steps are. And one of the things that I always tell the folks that we meet with is, please, when I introduce you to one of my colleagues, maybe in a different department or maybe within the Department of Commerce, please don't think I'm passing you off to somebody else, because it's just, we very quickly go into collaborative mode and want to act as that conduit to introduce you to other folks. You've heard that a couple of times now. But we sit down, we help you develop it. Let's begin the basic overall export strategy on the and Shirreef, I think it's trade.gov, the website that is sponsored by the U.S. Commercial Service. You'll even find a questionnaire that says, that basically gives you 20 to 25 questions to walk through are you ready to export? From there, you sit down with one of us, we go through things with you, we help you develop, that pitch, a basic questionnaire for one of our international trade reps, and then the introductions go from there.
Great, thank you. Quickly, before we have the next question, I just want to piggyback on something John said. I worked with the Department of Commerce for about 6 years, and I do want to stress that if we're talking with someone, and as a resource provider as well, and I think it's the same with SBTDC and everybody up here, please don't ever feel like we're passing you off, but we may be referring you to a subject matter expert. John had mentioned his specialty is plastics and pharmaceuticals and whatnot, but his colleague may be more aligned to help you with service, so just keep that in mind. All right, sir, next question.
Thank you. My name is Herbert Johnson. I'm with Bull City Urban Market. I'm the president of that organization. And I would like to admit to you all that I came here prepared to go to sleep, and I find that I was unable to go to sleep at all. It was a very exciting presentation that you presented. But my question is, how do we get this information, what you have, out to more people? I represent a grassroots organization. The information that you're giving here, indicating to us that it's all free, most people think that it's very expensive to sit down on a one-on-one consultation with high-level people and get valuable information. This information we need to get out to more people. So my question is, how can we do that from the experts? Thank you.
Can I take this one? All right, I agree with you completely. You're absolutely right, and that's our biggest challenge, is getting this message out. It's our job at the Department of Agriculture, and I would dare say with the rest of around the table, is the way to get this out is to come to your operation, to sit down with you, drink a cup of coffee, and to listen to you. Now, the biggest challenge we have is finding you. I guarantee if you make a phone call to us, we'll be at your front door. But the first step is we have to go out, we have to find you. One of the easiest ways to find you is if someone actually calls us. But then we need to go out and we need to sit down and listen to you. And after we listen to you, then there's an opportunity for a message to be delivered. But that burden has to come on us as your representatives in the North Carolina state government and federal government too.
I would say that, from the top down, that President Obama announced the National Export Initiative 3 years ago, specifically to try to get that message out. It was an ambitious goal to try to double U.S. exports on national exports in 5 years, which people thought was an outrageous, ambitious goal, likened it to kind of putting a man on the moon. But we are well on the way, so it's working. I'd like to thank the City of Durham and the North Carolina Institute for Minority Economic Development again for giving us this platform. This platform is working. So we are working with limited resources and like everybody, limited budget, but we are doing the best we can to get that message out. But now we ask you, once the message is out there, to come back to us and let us work with you on a one-on-one basis.
And refer us. Refer us. I think that's one of the things that tends to work best. Once someone has worked with one of our organizations, the word gets out. You've seen a couple of success stories today. Every one of us could walk you through another. There are tales of caution as well, but I would say that working with you all, it helps us just kind of spread the word. Evangelism, that's the word I use. Has anyone here been to Mary Hill, North Carolina recently? Does anybody know where Mary Hill is? I did not before yesterday, but I drove out to Mary Hill, and there's a fantastic botanical extract organization out there, and they export. And so I drove out to Mary Hill, which is not far from Edenton, out in the eastern side of the state, and that's what we do. We go out, we meet with North Carolina companies, and we hope that those folks recommend us to others. But these are services that are available, and we're here to make them available to you all.
Yeah, your question really goes to just about, every company I ever meet with. They always say, my gosh, I wish I knew about you before. Where have you guys been hiding, type of thing. We're not hiding. We service thousands of small businesses throughout North Carolina, and we try to get out as much as possible. We're here today. In fact, there's some of our collaborators or partners that aren't here, maybe doing a presentation somewhere else. We're involved with the export universities. We're involved with the small business networks and all of the community colleges. So just, again, ask the questions out there and we'll come over to help. One of the most wonderful things about living in North Carolina, especially if you're going to be exporting, is the collaboration between all of us here. We're not just seeing each other for the first time. We constantly are working together. It's not just a seeing each other or passing off, as Bryles and others have said. It's working together. We have people from all different agencies throughout the United States coming to North Carolina to see how well we work together. The SBA, one of the top dogs at the SBA came over here last week, and she just wanted to go to the area that is the best organized, the best collaborative group of agencies together working to focus on North Carolina companies. So although we may be a secret to some, we're not a secret to each other, and so we work together very well. Once a month, we have a joint call, not only all of the people here involved, but all of our partners and colleagues as well, and we include the ports, we include Ex-Im Bank, SBA, all of them involved. Bryles is in the conference calls, and we share client information. We make sure that we're helping each other out, that if somebody needs an additional support, that one of us can say, yeah, you know what, we can do that. We've done that before. Let's help them out. So again, to your question is, it's the referrals, it's just, being open, working with the Women's Business Center, with the different economic development agencies, with the workforce development agencies. They know who we are. Ask the questions. Say, who can help me? I want to export. I'm thinking of going international. Who can help me? And they'll have answers for you.
I'd like to add one thing. A good banker should know about everybody on this panel. And we try to get out, especially in my industry, to get to the bankers, because if we can get them to loan money, they're going to make money, but they're going to help you, their client, grow their business. And so I think as the banks come out of this lending shell that they've been in for the last few years, you may see the word being spread a little more when the banks want to get more aggressive in loaning money to companies like yours. And so from my perspective, that's what I see. So find a good banker that's knowledgeable and has an interest in growing your business, and that's one way to get the word out about all the services that you're hearing today.
Great, that's a great point. Ma'am, ready?
Good morning. My name is Marcia Mitchell, and the name of my company is God Did It Corporation, which has to do with one question that I have for you. The other is, I came today because I was more or less interested in finding out about import as opposed to export. Until I spoke to Grace yesterday, the thought never crossed my mind that I, as a small business person starting out, might be able to export. So I'm excited to have heard, what you were saying, and looking forward to investigating further as to whether or not the products that I want to offer, could be exported, because again, that was something that I was not even on my radar. I just didn't think it was possible. I was happy just to, to sell here and be in North Carolina, to have a company that would generate jobs, and, so I'm happy about that. the question I have as well is, does it matter so much, like if my products are like faith-based, or does that have any impact on what you are able to help me see or do or arrange, or, so I see the no, so that's good. And
I don't mean to interrupt, but I would say it's, whether your product is peanut butter, for example, we'll lean on the U.S. Commercial Service to find out about the country-by-country research that's been done. They're able to provide us with demographic information that includes a religious background to let you know where some of the key markets are. So that's part of when we talk about the types of research we do. Whether we're talking about faith-based materials or we're talking about peanut butter, we can tell you, what these folks, how their breakdown looks, what the right market might be. Those are the types of things that we can do for you.
And then the things that we may export, do you also get into, like, okay, someone, the copyright or trademark things, that, what's going to prevent someone from just taking your idea and then just, producing it maybe cheaper than what I, as an exporter could produce it and then send it somewhere?
Definitely. We have in Market Access and Compliance, which is another agency in the International Trade Administration, a sister agency to the U.S. Commercial Service. They have an Office of Intellectual Property Rights, and they provide that kind of counseling for free. And then there's a lot of other local resources in North Carolina that we can introduce you to. We can introduce you to Sarah Stackleff, who is a recent graduate from Campbell Law School and former intern with our office. So we could provide a lot of connections, informally and formally. But just taking a quick stab without having really sat down to talk to you more about what might be the best opportunities for you, right off the bat, I would say trade missions to key markets may be something that you'd be interested in. It's a great way to go with international trade professionals in a safe environment. It's a great way to really take your first approach at understanding what your comparative advantage is going to be in the market, how you may want to come home and rethink your international strategy. So I'll just leave it at that. But yes, we certainly can work with faith-based organizations and work with them across the United States.
So again, the services that the panelist offers, like from, I know nothing, so it's where, where the lingo, or I know nothing. So, you start with someone like me and then take me and develop me to where I could export products.
A wise man that I know once told me, when I thought I knew everything, he said, "Alex, by the time you get there, I've been there and back 3 times." We've been there and back lots of times. So again, ask those questions to us, find us. We'll help you. If we don't know the answer, we know which one of us does. Regarding some of your questions, especially on the legal side of things, look at your small business networks within all of the community colleges throughout North Carolina. All 51, 58, I don't know where we are, 51 right now, has a small business network. Some of them actually have a little bit of an international focus, or they try to do that, and they'll have special things like Ask a Lawyer Day, Ask a CPA Day, where you can go in free of charge, speak with a lawyer that may be involved with patents, may be involved with documentations and legals, and so take a look at that as well. Again, there's a lot of free sources out there to use. Educate yourself. We've done this for a living for many, many, many years, so use us.
The email that will be sent out, all of your contact information will be on there. Okay. Well, thank you.
Can I ask you a question? What's your best product?
This.
The shirt? Mm-hmm. It's a nice shirt. It's a very good shirt.
Thank you. Sir, do you have a question?
Good evening. My name is Roderick Howell. I'm a small entrepreneur trying to create a marketing company, so I have big dreams. But my question right now is I'm trying to help some local businesses that are trying to establish themselves, start selling their products like shirts and stuff in different areas, and I want to figure out how to any initiatives or any things that could help lower the cost of, instead of just having the consumers come to the website, buy it, and then we're paying a lot of fees for like FedEx to ship it out and stuff like that.
Are you talking internationally or just
Yeah,
overall in general?
Well, overall in general, but we found that we have a lot of people internationally in the European area that like the product, but it costs even more to ship over there. And we're looking at, well, how can we get the shirts and all these things over the products over there?
Absolutely, absolutely. And when you're talking about textiles and especially finished products in textiles, most countries tend to have some of the higher duties on those. And so the landed cost, not only with the shipping and the freight on there, but then you have to add your duties and taxes. And if you're looking at value-added taxes, it's like a tax on top of a tax. So we work with several companies that are doing that, and are saying, you know, we start off with an $80 cost, but it arrives there at $200, $300 per piece of clothing. So again, it's one of those things you have to look at. SBTDC has an initiative with supply chain, and one of the things that we help do is match North Carolina companies with other North Carolina companies to help reduce some of those manufacturing costs. So every time you can reduce a bit of the cost in the product itself, will reduce the landed costs at the end. Okay? And other than that, you have to look at the strategies in terms of pricing. You may want to maybe take a smaller margin going overseas so that landed cost meets what your market is willing to pay for it. It could be a matter of saying, well, I'd rather have the higher gross margin and sell here in the U.S., but again, if you're looking at capacity, and if you've got capacity and additional volume and absorption of costs and a lot of different things like that, we can help structure that so that when that product arrives overseas, helping with the logistics, the logistics company FedEx, for instance, FedEx is very good at saying, you know what, you're a small business, we want to help you out. You know, they'll negotiate, they'll try to get you the best rates possible out there. Again, ask the questions. Don't just look at what their rate sheet is. Ask the questions. They're willing to work with you. I don't know one company here in North Carolina, I don't know one company in the U.S. that won't say, yes, we want your business. What can we do to get it?
Thank you.
Great. Any more comments on that? Okay. Do we have any more questions from the audience? All right. I think we're going to wrap it up. I'm going to ask Thomas to come back up. Thank you all very much. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Browse. We would like to thank you all for coming out today. And after this presentation, you're welcome to stay around a little while longer to ask our panelists one-on-one questions. But would you join me in thanking our distinguished panel for coming out today to provide education to us on international trade and agribusiness. I would also like to recognize and say thank you to our moderator today, Mary Spate, from the SPTDC at North Carolina Central University, our collaborating sponsor, Browse Johnson, from the Women's Business Center of North Carolina and the North Carolina Institute of Minority Economic Development, Justin McDougall, who serves as our small business development intern. Also would like to recognize all of our people from the Office of Economic and Workforce Development, Reggie Jones, Grace DeZinho, who is the small business liaison from the department, and Andrea Groder, who is our public relations specialist. And not least, my distinguished colleagues who serve with me on the Small Business Advisory Committee. I see a few of them out in the audience. We would like to say thank you all for making this program a success today. And to reiterate a point that we made earlier, your comment and feedback are encouraged and recommended. because we take what our citizens and our constituents tell us they want, and we try to formulate an action plan to bring those programs and activities to pass in the fiscal year. So please take a moment to complete those assessment surveys. Again, thank you for coming, and a quick reminder that this presentation will be available on the City of Durham website. It will also be available on Time Warner Cable Channel 8. And if you sign in on the registration sheets, you will receive a copy of each presentation with their contact information by the close of business this afternoon. Again, thank you for coming.